If you've ever wondered what mediumship looks like when it stretches you, really stretches you, this is one of those stories. Today I'm sharing a reading that didn't just move the sitter, it moved me. It asked me to listen more deeply, trust more boldly, and stay present in the emotion in a way that changed how I worked with spirit forever. This isn't a dramatic story for the sake of drama. It's a story about truth and healing and lineage and what happens when spirit comes through with a message that's bigger than what you expect. As you watch, I invite you to stay open and stay gentle with yourself and notice what you feel in your own body. This reading touches on suicide, family trauma, and emotional truth, but it also holds so much light, clarity, and connection that I hope you'll stay and have a listen. If you're someone developing your own psychic mediumship gifts, pay attention to those moments where spirit asks me to go boldly with the evidence, to trust the emotional texture of what's being said, and to let the healing move in both directions. Let's get started. Before I even opened my mouth, I felt this presence come in with a force that I don't always experience. Not every reading is this strong. This one wasn't aggressive, just urgent. It was the kind of arrival that makes you sit up straighter and think, okay, something big's gonna happen. I'm gonna share the first clip now of how that reading started. You're just going to see me, not my client, as I'm protecting her identity here. We can call her Sarah, and we're going to talk to her father. Let's see how I was introduced to Sarah's dad. I get a gentleman. I feel, is your father in spirit? What I felt was, even before I said, we're not necessarily going to get the person that she wants. He's like, no, I'm here. I'm here. I'm dad. I'm dad. When spirit comes on this strongly, you have a choice, really. You can either go bold with the evidence or you can shrink back and not give the evidence. I chose to go boldly. This reading really was truly vibrant and textured and layered, and Sarah was such an interesting person to meet. She came through full of sunshine. It was like meeting the color yellow incarnate. I didn't know it yet, but things were about to get really real. Spirit wasn't giving me gentle metaphors. They were giving me raw emotional evidence that you could feel in your chest. This is the kind that makes you trust your clairs completely. You are bringing light to people in a way that you don't even understand, in a way that they don't even deserve because of what you've been dealt, what I dealt to you, what I brought forward to you, the shit you saw, the stuff I put your mother through, the stuff I put your sister through. You have a sister?
Yeah.
The stuff I put family through. I put you through all this stuff, and yet you show up every day with a sunshine on your face. The world doesn't deserve you. Even without showing her face here, you can know that her energy was just full of that yellow sparkly energy, and then some green and some blue, and just so calm and lovely, and you just want to hang out with her all day long. Sarah's dad had mental health struggles that spanned decades. His suicide was actually the culmination of a long and painful decline. At one point, he said that he blamed his wife for the breakdown and divorce in their marriage, and I didn't want to say it. It felt like something, first of all, that I was saying to a daughter about her parents, but also it felt like something that maybe was her dad's opinion versus actual fact. I will 100% take ownership over my part of this. I understand I had a big hand in this, but he's saying there's other factors at play here. And he's saying, I don't want to say it that way. He's saying your mom is not blameless. Would you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. What you see here with Sarah, though, was that it was validating. It was actually evidence. This taught me that sometimes the most healing thing you can do is deliver that truth with clarity and compassion, even when it's intense and oh so vulnerable. As the conduit, as the psychic medium, you're never quite sure if the evidence is going to land with a laugh or a cry. And in this case, it felt much more like a yes confirmation. One of the most powerful moments was when spirit shifted from personal apology to generational context. He's showing me his life, and I get this a lot with intuitive readings, like on a line graph. I was in finance, so they showed to me in finance, right? And what it feels like to me is he never made it above zero.
he was always in the negative. So like he never got the positive aspects. And that started from the get-go. Like that's not, this precedes you, this precedes mom. Doesn't feel like his dad's that great either. Doesn't feel like there was a great relationship. It feels like poverty or like circumstantial, but it also feels emotional to me. I was born into the shit. I didn't help myself out either. Had I been born in a different generation, and he's pointing to something a little bit later where mental health is something we discuss. He's saying those words didn't exist before. And even if, let's say, I had been born into the richest family in the world, I still didn't have those words, but the poverty made it worse. He wouldn't have had the resources to even heal himself.
This wasn't just about one man's pain, it was about the pain that he inherited, the emotional poverty, the lack of resources, the lack of language around mental health. We talk openly now about anxiety, depression, and trauma, and even emotional abuse. But that wasn't always true, and many older generations did not have the tools to deal with that. I have talked to many loved ones in spirit who come through and confirm this. Sometimes we're not only dealing with our own stuff, but we're dealing with the generational patterns of things that happened way before we were born. These were patterns that shaped Sarah's father long before she came on the scene. And then came the moment that hit me personally the hardest, the acknowledgement that Sarah was indeed a cycle breaker for the generational trauma in her family, the one who brings light despite what she lived through. I will fully admit that this reading internally brought me to tears, but one thing you cannot do is break down in the middle of a reading. It's not fair to the sitter, and it's really not fair to the spirit, and so you really have to keep your emotions in check. Despite how much it changed me, the reading was really not about me in that moment.
You are also the one that pushes the family to kind of try to heal. And he's saying, thank you so much for doing that. Your family's fighting you left and right, though. You understand that?
Um,
That you want to talk about it. You want to bring it out into the open. You want to have these conversations. You want to reconcile the life you had. You want to reconcile who your dad was, the disease, all the things. You want to make sure that he's not forgotten, that that is not swept under the rug, that he's still a person in your life, that he's still there and he deserves to be talked about. And your family just wants to be like, close the door.
yeah.
And if anything, that's even more hurtful for you than him passing, because now you have to deal with it every day and pretend like he didn't exist. And that's not fair. That's not fair. And he's saying it's like double grief. You've lost your dad and you've lost your support system. He says, for that, I am doubly sorry. Like, you don't deserve that in the least bit.
This is mediumship, though, in the most profound sense. Not just connecting the living and the dead, but instead illuminating a generational link and healing that can happen from across the veil, that can happen in a forward-looking progress. That is why I do what I do. This reading asked me to hold two things together at once: the truth of what had happened and the tenderness required to deliver it. Early on in my trainings, one of my tutors told me two things that fully didn't land until I had this reading. First, work on yourself as a medium. Deal with your own emotional trauma. You don't know what a reading will bring up. You have to understand your own childhood. You have to understand your own family patterns and how to hold space for someone else without collapsing into your own story. Second, learn the language of grief. Take a class and understand the process. Understand how people will react in a very grief-filled scenario. There are ways to help, and there are so many ways to harm, and make sure that you're doing the things to help.
What he also wants to say is he knows that this hurt you deeply, that this presumption that you should have known hurt you deep down to the deepest part of yourself, and it made you question yourself. It made you question who you were. It made you question your place in your family.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I didn't understand my impact. I didn't. And he's like, he came to me so forcefully and so forward, and now he's like sitting back on his heels, and there's a definite amount of regret and remorse here. He's wanting to reach out from the bottom of his soul to your soul to make that connection again and just deeply, deeply, deeply apologize for that.
Mediumship is not about making things pretty. It's about making things true. And sometimes the truth is the doorway to that healing that we all want so very much. This reading taught me that spirit knows more than I do what the sitter is ready for. even when the message is heavy, emotional, and complex. There was a moment, and you'll see it in this clip, where spirit changed from evidence-based to an invitation. This was deeply personal for me, but also a reminder that no matter what happens in life, spirit is always here to help.
Do you have a grandma who's alive?
No.
Grandma who's passed?
Yeah.
Feels like your mom's mom? Who feels like a good sounding board, like full of sunshine, just like grandma take you under the wing, feed you some cookies and like give you a good sunshine. He's saying she will help you. And I'm saying, well, she's not a medium. So, and he's like, well, no, but she can feel. He's sensing that you have that ability in a way. Do you understand that? Do you feel signs?
Signs more so.
Signs. Okay. So we're going to backtrack on personal here for just 1 second. When this started for me, my father-in-law planted himself next to me. He passed away about 6 years ago, 7 years ago now, of a heart attack very suddenly, was unexpected. And when I first started to feel things, see signs, kind of like dive into it a little bit deeper, he planted himself right next to me and just like talked to me all day so that I could figure out how to do this quickly. And your dad is saying that he will do that for you. And I'm saying to him, I don't know if you're the person she's going to want that from. And he's saying, well, he's offering up your grandma as a backup.
Ah.
So it sounds like it, but it sounds like you would have that ability to be able to communicate. He's also saying that might help you with this idea of him passing, being here and him gone. He's like, I'm not gone. This veil between us is very thin. And he's like, don't feel like here, gone, that's it. It's over. He's like, there can be some crossover here.
This is truly the moment that changed me. It reminded me that mediumship is not just about that communication that we want, which I so desire for everyone, but that it's also a relationship, a back and forth with the spirit world that continues on. It is the ongoing connection between our worlds. And it reminded me that the work that we do isn't just about the message. It is about empowering people. It's about healing. It's about helping someone feel supported and guided and connected in a way that they may have never felt before in their life. This reading taught me several things that I will carry with me for the rest of my life. Go boldly with the evidence. When spirit brings you through something so clear, say it. Give that evidence, even if it's emotional, unexpected, or it stretches you, the medium. Healing is generational. We are not just reading the person in front of us, we're reading the entire lineage. And sometimes the deepest healing comes from understanding the whole story. Mediumship is a collaboration. It is a triangle between you, the medium, spirit, and the sitter. And when all three are so open and so ready for the reading to happen, it becomes something bigger than any one of us individually. This reading taught me to stay with the emotion, even when it's big or messy or uncomfortable. It can be tempting to soften the edges, and there are times and places where that is appropriate. But when you're sitting with a sitter and everything is aligning for you to say those words, you just sit in that emotion and move through it without diluting it. And sometimes the emotion is the evidence. It's not always just about the facts or the details, but the sense of who this person was and how they lived and what they were trying to heal. When you say the emotion without rushing or fixing or translating it, the reading becomes deeper and truer and actually more transformative for everyone involved, myself included.
Let's just take a moment and ask him then what his last comment is here for this. Because sometimes if we just give them a second, we get something really good. It's gonna make me cry. He wants you to know that your life is a gift. And to see it in that way every single day when you wake up, that your life is a gift. I never saw it that way. I saw my life as a burden. And he's saying, your life is a gift. You know, the deep heart of hearts, that there is a reason why you're on this earth and that it is a gift and that you are sharing your gifts and talents with others. And for that, you're a better person than me, but also you will be rewarded 20 times over.
Thank you so much for staying with me. This reading changed me, but not just because it was dramatic, but because it was true. It reminded me why I do this work and how powerful it can be when spirit is given that space to speak honestly. I would love to know in the comments if you've seen a medium before and had an experience like this, and what was the biggest part that healed you? Was it something that they said, or was it truly just the emotion that you felt in that moment? If you'd like to see more videos like this, I encourage you to subscribe and follow along on this very spiritual, very emotional journey. I'm Emily from Connected Intuition. As always, stay open, stay curious, stay connected with Connected Intuition, and I'll see you next time.